Onyas, the Illidens, insanely prevalent, Illidan kind of being a permaban in that situation. So you have this map where Kerrigan is super strong, probably going to draw a ban early, but that opens up the draft quite heavily. In fact, I didn't see who chose the map. We're going to find out in just a second as the draft is up, but that will actually tell us a lot about what is planned here.
Yeah, it is one of L5's more often picked battlegrounds. However, it is also one that, okay, it is going to be L5's. I was going to say it is one where they lost. They lost to MVP Miracle on Infernal Shrines, but Tempest will get first pick, first ban. They're going to ban out Zarya.
Okay, and there's the Tassadar ban to follow it up. You know, you obviously can't allow Zarya on this map. It's super important to deny that because she can solo shrine, she can push lanes early, she can win essentially that very strong pushing level 1, and so is removed. Ragnaros getting chosen here first is quite interesting. Obviously, he's very useful at stealing and sometimes finishing off the shrine phase. You know, say you get up to 34 and you lose control, then you can just Molten Core, which is a long cooldown, but it's worth it for a Punisher. So that's one of the reasons why you see him picked here. Modern Life himself, shown on camera, is going to be likely the player to play it. We saw Lockdown on it previously with the double melee, and that's always what happens when you have double melee right now in not just Korea, but actually starting to become more worldwide in Asia.
Tychus was a highly contested hero on this battleground. 3 out of the 4 games that L5 played on Infernal Shrines, they had Tychus. So I'm excited to see where the change comes in because we just have not had very much Tychus at all. 1 game he was played yesterday. Muradin, Malfurion here, so hiding or at least giving time to respond to whatever picks Tempest go for are L5.
All right, this is an old Tempest favorite. Now, obviously, you have to take Ragnaros out of the equation here. Perhaps put Sonya in his place or something like that, but then you go into the gray main Tyrael. We've seen this several times this tournament already. It's an old Asian favorite specifically. It wasn't as popular in the West. We saw it a few times in Europe, but I mean, mostly this was an Asian strategy used in China and Korea, and it's off of the back of this type of strategy that Tempest was able to win the Summer Global Championship in 2016. So it's a strat they're very familiar with. And L5 is once again kind of drafting conservatively. They're going to try to react to the draft of Tempest here, going into the Muradin Malfurion, 2 standard picks. It will likely be the Noblesse on Muradin unless they get a double tank again like they did last time and have the role swap where they had Jungha on Muradin. But no one will argue that anyone could play Muradin better than Noblesse right now, so he gets a nice comfort pick here. The ban here is a little bit tough because you could ban a support, but there's so many supports available right now. And remember, Hyde has a great support pool. And Tassadar is already removed, Zarya's already removed, and they're just going to take away AoE here in the Gul'dan instead.
Interesting. That's a pick I thought L5 maybe want to go after. They've got other plans. Now on the side of Tempest.
Yeah, Tempest, this is a really tough ban. They could try to choke out damage if they want to go solo damage gray main, which they absolutely could. The problem is who's going to be their secondary support. You know, they're going to have one main support. Could be for example, like a Karazim Lucio here. It's very possible that they run something like that with the gray main. If they want to have solo gray main, then they could try to choke out the damage and ban something like a Li Ming here. But if you do that, it becomes super obvious what you've got planned, and then L5 can counteract that. They're going to ban damage in Falstad here. It also removes his global. It's not his most powerful map, but it's still a strong pick here. And we saw Nitrogen do some serious work in the previous game, minus that one flight. Gotta give the asterisk there.
He just got very excited.
Sure. I did too when he flew in. And I looked up and I'm like, well, that's got like 19 seconds still.
There's a roller coaster of emotions right there.
All right, so in terms of damage here for L5, they're obviously really heavily considering the Li Ming. With Gul'dan removed, Falstad removed, Greymane's off the table. The other big, you know, kind of question mark here is, will we see the Raynor pop back in? I don't feel like it would be terrible here. He's got a lot of range against the pretty heavy melee that we're seeing so far here from Tempest.
Is there any possibility that they would run a Kael'thas? There's a lot of melee.
It's possible, however unlikely. We have seen it before in Korea.
Yeah, Tempest actually ran it once on this battleground, but I was wondering maybe if...
I was going to say it could be Hammer as well. That's another range that's available.
Needs me.
But they're going to go into the Leeming. The Hammer is super vulnerable to a Greymane. He's insanely divey and has the support of the Tyrael, which can just simply allow Greymane to kill Hammer almost no matter what if there's no good peel. And I think that's part of the reason why we see Dahaka here. So they lost the global and fall step, but they have the global and Dahaka. And if you grab a Greymane before the Sank goes down, because you know, that's something we see oftentimes, then you can actually eliminate the Greymane or pull him out of Sank range.
Hyde will get his comfort of Rhaegar. Last pick now, probably, what are you thinking, a ranged here?
It's tough to say. With Muradin removed here already with just the Tyrael, and also because Gul'dan is up, it's tough to actually kind of split damage between ability, expel damage, and auto attack damage.
Oh, I was just gonna think Medivh. Ah, that's awesome.
That's the extra support that, you know, exists now that wasn't really in summer, where you lost the Tassadar, but you have something very similar in damage mitigation for Greymane here. So he's still got triple support in terms of shielding. So, you know, it's not Dami on the Greymane here like it was in summer, but everything else feels just about the same.
Last pick, and now a Medivh to have to deal with for L5. So it's going to make sure that they can deal with that.
It's tough, you know, they might look for some extra damage. It would be crazy and off the radar to pick something like a Vala here or a Raynor, but maybe they just want to have extra auto attack damage that once the shields expire, because shields so hard counter Leeming's burst damage. They're going to take Zeratul instead, so they're going to go into double melee with the Dahaka. I was going to say some extra range would be nice once the burst shields are gone to just eventually have that longer sustained damage, because shields are only temporary and they really counter burst. That's why Tassadar is so strong against Leeming. That's why Medivh is so strong against Leeming. You see the Leeming orb and missiles flying in, and Medivh's like, nope, you just wasted all your cooldowns.
Yeah, that Greymane is going to be a hard one for L5 to kill. But they do have a lot of ability of zoning between Muradin and Dahaka. They've got roots too. But I'm just wondering how it's going to work with so many melee now, having Zeratul along with Dahaka and Muradin.
I'm also a little bit afraid of the Ragnaros as well, because he's going to have a lot of poke, so they're going to struggle to win the poke war. Greymane can help clear the shrine really fast. Greymane has really good wave clear, and it's not out of the question to see him go down a cocktail build here as well for that reason. Greymane was actually popularized during Korea when he first came out for his cocktail builds. Obviously, they were a lot stronger back then, and they were changed quite a bit before going into summer. But when he first came out, Greymane was using Korea. Greymane was saying, oh, I could just poke forever on that shrine, because he used to just be able to explode without proccing. And for that reason, you can build into cocktails. You can get that extra damage, so that's something we may very well see here.
Yeah, Tempest, when they played Greymane yesterday, did build into a Gilnean cocktail. But when L5 played him, it was the old school Protect the Wizened Duelist composition. It would be harder, I would say, to be able to stack up for this composition. There's 2 warriors with double health bars. You know, you've got lots of escapes with Leeming and Zeratul, and then even at 13, Malfurion gets Ice Block. So we may not see Wizened Duelist, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we still get some sort of Worgen build.
I think we will likely see that. The cocktail build is more the kind of devil's advocate I'm trying to play for. There's 2 sides of the coin they could run with this, but you don't build, you know, triple support with the Tyrael and the Medivh, you know, to give those extra shields to a hero plus the sanctification if you're not planning on really doing that Worgen damage, going for the throat, getting the kill, especially on kind of a solo damage Leeming. She's going to have to be very well protected. And if you compare you know, protection for both sides for that damage, it's definitely kind of in Tempest's favor. They've built towards this one deal, as they call it in Korea. Dealing is, of course, the word they use for damage over there.
Well, it is a great point that you make. If they are more focused on having the better poke, looking at the composition of L5, then maybe it is going to be a cocktail build. We'll have to see. Maybe at level 1, definitely at level 4 is when we'll know for sure.
And don't forget, Medivh has insanely good poke too, as long as he's making sure that he hits heroes while he's doing it. But if you're zoning and you have the, you know, Tyrael up in the front lines as well, you can kind of slowly get in there with the Medivh, drop portals, continue to poke, and eventually you find yourself, you know, stacking up those numbers. And they have Ragnaros as well to help finish that off. So I feel like in general, overall, I like the draft of Tempest much better, but here's the draft of L5. It's going to be Noblesse this time on the Muradin, Zhonga on Zeratul, Nitrogen on Leeming, Swoi on Malfurion once more, and SC this time on the Dahaka. So pretty standard in terms of players for roles. No big swaps here.
Jungha Zeratol, if I'm remembering the right game, yesterday,
Yes.
pretty scary,
Pretty
I would
terrifying.
say. Very terrifying.
Diving into kill zones and getting out. Felt like a global hero
Yeah.
with how much he was flying about.
And here are their opponents, down 1 game in this best of 5. Lockdown playing Grey Main, Rhaegar played by Hyde. Sign will be playing Tyrael Duck on his Medivh in Modern Life. Back onto Ragnaros.
Okay, big test time for Modern Life. How conservative is he going to be with those Molten Cores? You know, this is the hero he was somewhat of a make or break for. Very poor play at the beginning of HGC Korea, causing them a lot of losses, but definitely stepped it up towards the end. We're going to see the early HGC Modern Life for the late one. That's what we're going to find out on map number 2. Tempest is down a game in the series, and they're going to see if they can tie it up here going into Infernal Shrines.
안녕하세요. 팀 템페스트에서 주장 겸 지원가를 맡고 있는 하이드라고 합니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 이번에 템페스트로 합류하게 된 사인이라고 하고요.
일단은 중국 팀들이랑 좀 많은 스크림 연습을 했고요. 그리고 이제 유럽 경기들을 보면서 좀 뱀픽 연구도 좀 활발히 했습니다.
한국 팀들하고 연습할 환경이 되지 않았는데 이번에 중국 이스타 팀이 많이 도와줘가지고 이스타랑 연습을 많이 했어요.
일단 목표는 항상 게이머들이 공통적으로 우승을 목표로 하고 왔지만 어떤 성적을 내든 간에 일단 최선을 다하도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 전에도 상대해 봤기 때문에 좀 많이 고전을 할 것 같아요.
Here we go into game number 2 on Infernal Shrines. Best of 5 once again between these two teams, L5 and Tempest. The last time they faced off in best of 5, it was in the middle of HGC Korea. A 3-1 result. Tempest, one of the few teams to take a game off of L5, but that was on Dragonshire, and L5 already made it through that in game number 1 this time.
Yep, that they did. We're going to see Shandos coming out here for Valkyrian at level 1. So Sway is going to have Innervate on a lower cooldown, and that means that whoever he's innervating will also have their abilities on lower cooldown, plus the mana that will grant. So somewhat uncommon pick, but I like to see it here. We see it actually sometimes with Gul'dan specifically, but I think mostly the target here is going to be Li Ming. So we'll see if Nacho Gen just simply can do extra damage more reliably over time. And, you know, there's the shot of Nacho Gen right there. He's going to be kind of the solo damage. Jongha's going to look for picks and is going to be able to set up some pressure. But keep in mind also, Void Prison doesn't really pair with all too much here either. It can pair with a Twilight Dream or a Massive Silence, but there's no big CC otherwise.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get resets off of the Void Prison, how that will work. But Twilight Dream is at least one nice thing that they can have. It'll come down to where Malfurion's positioned and if he can make it up there in time. And how well Tempest can zone away Malfurion from that follow-up. Because Tempest do have Sanctification on the other side of that. As far as the Shandos, there's going to be a lot of poking around Shrines. Definitely that will help out too, not only in giving cooldown reduction to Nacho Gen, who that is with too, but Nacho Gen then can move into Force Armor and try to negate some of that spell damage and ability damage from Tempest, which with the cocktail build that Tempest are building into, so they are focusing more on making sure they have that for Shrines, and then Sulfura Smash later on. Just trying to mitigate where she can.
I mean, not only that, the Smite as well, and even Medivh poke, all that's going to be helpful here. We're going to see a big commitment here, and just barely ducked up, gets the teleport, but Jongha with Vorpal will secure the kill. And that's one of the reasons why Zeratul is often picked, against Medivh in Korea. It's not, a common pick. Oh, hold that thought. Modern Life here in trouble as well. John gets the double, and unfortunately will go down regardless there. I believe the minion actually got the last shot there. So we were seeing SC try to tank that last tower shot, but still very impressive. But yeah, Vorpal actually kind of counters the portals in a way, because where they go, you go as well when you activate that.
And in having Malfurion to be able to root at the sides of the portals too, Tempest have to be very careful about how they choose to engage along with Duck's portals.
Now, Tempest actually, with that just sort of staggered death timer, had an advantage in bodies here on this first shrine. And L5 knows better actually not to really heavily contest this, because in terms of poke, this is won by Tempest on every regard. Li Ming's actually not that very good at poking down the shrine because, her missiles don't really stack up too well. And there's this Molten Core, so you're really just going to struggle in this in a lot of ways. That's why they send Dahaka mid and bot to get the extra soak, so at least they have an EXP lead while they slowly end up losing this shrine.
Yeah, this is something that I wanted to remark on for Tempest specifically. Something unique they do is they're willing to use Molten Core to secure a shrine, secure a Punisher, over making sure they have it for the defense. So this risky play, Team Face Check, I'm pretty sure was the only other team I had seen do that when studying for this event. Modern Life himself in trouble, caught between so many members of L5, and another takedown for L5.
They just struggled to get it as fast as they wanted to, so then had to overcommit here now. Looks like they're going to get out with mostly everybody. See if the portal comes down here to save Hyde. He actually gets rooted and will be taken out. Duck unable to save him. And this actually could go from bad to worse here. Just 2 kills. They do secure, of course, that Punisher, but they were already behind in EXP from the soak of SC earlier. And this Punisher will get some nice structural damage, help them catch up. This should have been a cleaner early game. This first early shrine should have been theirs a lot better. Yeah. Either way, at least they get the consolation prize of that Arcane Punisher. Yeah,
winning the shrine should theoretically, if done right, put you ahead in experience. And yet, because they sacrifice so many members to do so, L5 is still ahead and has the possibility of getting even further ahead when they can get some Punishers of their own.
Absolutely true. Modern Life actually down here in the solo bot lane at this moment in time. Always going to have to be wary of the rotations of Jungha Zeratul, because, we've seen a lot of Ragnaros specifically in this tournament getting picked off in solo because they're so greedy for those stacks, just like we were talking about in the previous set. So keep an eye on that. Of course, here's our schedule coming up if you want to know what's coming up later tonight. So we've seen Eastern Black coming up next, but only about 2/3 of an EXP lead for L5 at 4 kills to 1, and the fact that they have Dahaka soaking double during that shrine phase, it's not the end of the world. The fact that Tempest is still only about a level behind is pretty solid. As we actually see that full cocktail build coming out here as well right now for Lockdown. He's going into that instead of going the Wisdom Duelist, knowing it's going to be tough to get kills, as you were talking about before. So I actually like this build. They have so much poke, but they need to be winning shrines with this comp with how they've decided to push this.
And level 7 is a really important time for Tempest as well because of Master's Touch. I was looking at the Rhaegar build, getting Stormcaller, not a talent that is very much seen at all in competitive Heroes of the Storm. It will help reduce, I believe, the mana cost of his shield.
Yeah. And he's going to pair that with Lightning Bond. So that's, again,
right.
So there's more of these talents. Like, I have to win every Punisher. Like, they better be winning every Punisher with how they've decided to build these heroes and the composition they've chosen here if they're not going to go down the Wisdom Duelist path, which I think is a wise choice. But with how that last engage went, when they should have had such a large advantage, I'm worried for them. They're also not going to have 10 first. In fact, they're going to be hard-pressed to try to contest this shrine before L5 gets 10.
Yeah, they would have to start right away or try to soak for their lives and get 10 and then go back in. But they're making the choice to move in right away. So get as many of the skeletal defenders as they can. Try to keep somebody soaking. They've got Rhaegar in the bottom lane dealing with the camp that was grabbed there. If they can get enough, then Modern Life can go to Molten Core and hope to get the rest of the skeletal defenders needed when they have to back off for heroic abilities, which is very soon.
You're absolutely right. They're going to need more than this. I'd say you need probably about 25 to actually make that work. They're only at 17 right now. Modern Life overextends here. Jungha comes in. They're going to use a portal here to try to turn this fight. Good shield there onto Modern Life. But the shrine is now taken away from him. It's going to force a Molten Core. But Gilly, just like the previous one, I just don't think they got enough here.
Yeah, if they don't have Molten Core to defend versus this too, there's going to be a lot of utility for L5 to try to get a lot more off of this Punisher. But they're staying in the lead, Tempest are. They're still moving in, trying to pull away members of L5. L5 are very concerned with trying to get any kill that they can catch. Twilight Dream just to hit a Tyrael, but he gets out in time.
Okay, will they get kills this time again? L5 looking for the pick here onto Sign. He does escape.
That was so well done by Tempest.
Yeah, they got the Molten Core out, you know, and they, despite being down 10, saved everybody. They were going to get the Punisher, right? And I said they don't have enough. I mean, like, this is going to force them to dive in without 10s. Last time they dove in on even talents, and it went poorly for them, so I assumed that L5 would actually get some picks here. They didn't. They tried to. They used Twilight Dream. But this is incredible for Tempest to actually be able to still secure this, not lose anybody, a talent tier down, and heroics down.
The roots go down though. Duck's in trouble, gets through the portal.
Oh, good sank here, actually. Hyde does get saved right now, but look at this Disintegrate set up here to get the reset. Hyde goes down regardless. It's going to get double Disintegrate, which will finish off Modern Life. There's the drag onto Sign, and it is going to be 4 dead here for Tempest. There's those heroics in full form, and actually that pre-Disintegrate just to make sure that Hyde was killed was awesome, because you don't actually have to save it and time it perfectly like that. Doesn't even matter, because you're going to get another one once you get that first takedown. So that was really well done by Nacho Gen.
Tempest getting just a little too aggressive. There's the beautiful Void Prison too, taking out Rhaegar before he can be there to Ancestral Heal anybody. Sulfurous Smash went out, but Nacho Gen getting the resets throughout the fight, and now at a spot where Tempest could come back, getting maybe too aggressive there in the mid lane, getting punished for it with all of these zoning abilities, Void Prison 2, and the roots catching Medivh.
Just a good combo. You talked about how oftentimes Zeratul Void Prison is used for some sort of crazy wombo combo. This team has the Twilight Dream, but otherwise not much, except Li Ming, which you talked about earlier. If the Void Prison can get you just one reset, the fight snowballs, and that's what we saw there. Getting that Void Prison just to make sure they got the kill onto Hyde was where things went wrong for Tempest and went great for L5. Perfect execution of team fight there. And now they have this talent tier advantage. Tempest has been able to consistently get the Punishers, but it feels like at large costs every time. You can tell Jung was considering a Vorpal there, but knew better of it as Raven Form is activated.
Another Shrine will be activating in 10 seconds, and Tempest without 12, or without 13 even, have to figure out, are they again going to try to contest this? Are they going to push another lane and just catch up in experience so that they can have the faster defense, the better defense, save Molten Core for that?
Looks like they're going to try to hard engage this, just based on what I'm seeing. The slow rotation down from Modern Life is a problem, though, and L5 is going to try to capitalize on this before he arrives. He's not able to Molten Core right now, but he does have his heroic Sulfurous. Big stasis here, actually, to save with the Burrow.
That Void Prison is going to stop the rest of Sanctification. Leyline Seal off the backline, though. Ancestral Healing connects, and Lockdown dives back in, taking down to Haka.
I think this is Duck's third career game on Medivh, and that was an incredible Leyline Seal. It's not going to be enough, though, because the resets come down here. Lockdown is very aggressively positioned. It's going to be a positive 2-for-1 trade here for L5. Junga's looking for the pick on the Hyde. He commits here and will get it. Blinks away. And look at Mori. Vorpal's back in. Modern Life will Molten Core. But for what? It's even a waste of a super long cooldown. He actually intentionally gets out here. And he's going to get picked off. Junga dives in. And they will get a full wipe here 10 minutes into the game. Junga is playing like a god right now.
He is, but that is frustrating. Maybe the pressure just slightly getting to Modern Life, having or using Molten Core there when everyone from L5 had already moved out, now not having it for this Punisher that L5 is about to get, and still Tempest and spending so much time at this Shrine, haven't gotten 13. They're almost there. Nacho Gen using Disintegrate just to get the final few defenders off of the Shrine.
There you have it. It's a Mortar Punisher, so not an arcane or anything terrible like that, but at this stage, you know, Tempest has one tiny window to actually look at this stats, by the way. 6-1 and 7.
Pretty sure that we already know who the MVP of this game will be.
Oh, absolutely. You know, assuming Tempest doesn't turn it around, but I mean, right now it's looking like that's going to be an impossibility. Their poking comp isn't working out, and look, they had a brief window where they weren't down a talent tier, but they didn't have anything they could do against it anyways. Molten Core being on cooldown here, that panic moment from Modern Life is such a problem right now where they're trying to defend their keep wall. It's on cooldown still, he can't use it, he can't defend. fact, he's just soaking mid right now. That's all they can do. This is keep wall basically goes down for free. They're going to try to re-engage here. Modern Life's coming up. I don't think they're going to get anybody out of this.
Here goes the chase too. Portal's there, aggressive. Got the roots underneath it though, so no one's going to take it through yet. Nice Stormbolt.
Just a really safe, solid disengage. Right now, you know, we talked about which Modern Life are we going to see here on the Ragnaros, and you know, that one mistake, I mean, it's a tiny thing, right? But small mistakes make huge differences at this level of play. That panic Molten Core that didn't even save him is just, it was so poor of a decision in the long term, even though it was one tiny mistake. All right, 17-14 here. Sign taking massive amounts of damage will need to escape. Very aggressive out Druid's position there as well. Had he been rooted, that would have been a kill for sure.
Yeah, lights out. But thankfully dodged the Stormbolt too, and the roots got back through. Jungha still doing what he can to harass Tempest, harass Sign, who is low. He's going to move back. You know, the nice thing is for Tempest, even though, oh no, Sign was backing, dives back in here, goes locked on to his Sanctification, enabling.
That's exactly how you want to sank into a Greymane, put it in front of him so he can engage into it. But a really safe disengage here for L5. Leyline Seal isn't going to do much for them. They wanted to pair it with a big stun, that big swing. It's not going to happen though, and L5 should still be able to get out. Great ice block there by Swoy. John doing some extra damage here. He's low, but they're going to continue to push this. Nachogen does get low. If they kill him, that's all damage. Beautiful blink away to avoid that there. The teleport was amazing. Cleanse here very late on the lockdown, and they missed the Ancestral, and this is a big problem here as they're going to continue to push this more healthy. It's so important, though, they don't have Nachogen.
Hyde's going to go down. It's only a matter of time with that Force of Will helping to buy time, too. Ragnaros gets dragged back out. Modern Life wants to maybe get some self-healing, maybe get some damage down, but nobody low enough to give them another kill.
Yeah, the damageless comps fighting each other there as both Li Ming and Greymane were removed, but the scaling advantage for L5 there, as well as the positioning advantage, Hyde going down, meant this was a one fight for L5. And again, Tempest not in position to help contest this try. Noblesse is soloing it while everyone else hearts home to, you know, just get their health and mana back. They're going to control this early. And
it was admirable of Modern Life using that Molten Core, trying to get that. Oh no, this is not so good though. Gets through the portal, tried to bait out Ice Block for Malfurion, and he did. Sulfur Smash went down. It was a great Ice Block though to avoid that at the same time. But then Tyrael and Greymane were somewhat in the vicinity trying to get that kill. It just didn't quite work out. They did at least get one kill. They're close to 16, trying to still contest.
Yeah, the problem is because he did that, once again, somewhat misusing his cooldown here. He doesn't have Molten Core to contest this shrine right now. He's just going to have to do it vanilla, if you will. And he's trying to do what they can. And remember, even without Molten Core, this is still a better poking comp for Tempest, but they're behind about half right now of these Skeletal Defenders. 28 of 40 taken already for L5, and they're just going to kind of passively, slowly wind this up. There's no 16 yet for Tempest. Noblesse dives in. Jungha again here on the back line. They're going to get the kill onto Duck Duck, though. Noblesse is going to survive through all this. There's a cleanse. Great Ancestral. Noblesse still alive, actually, throughout all of this. The Void comes up. Sank to try to disengage this.
Yeah, they're going to try to do what they can. They know that they're in a really rough spot. That Twilight Dream was huge. 3, 4, 5-man team wipe just for the one kill on Nachogen.
This is going to be easily 20 for L5. They are going to be able to clear this top fort, no problem. In fact, keep the Punisher fairly healthy. Let's not forget, very unfortunately for Tempest, this is an Arcane Punisher. This just may nearly be checkmate for Tempest at this stage in the game. Duck Duck has respawned. They're only level 16, so they have the longest death timers. But just being down a talent tier, that massive Storm level 20 talent tier disadvantage is such an issue for them. They should have Molten Core for this defense, but keeping this keep alive is going to be very difficult for Tempest right now. All right, there's the respawn.
Has been making Duck Duck's life miserable trying to support and help support his team. Here comes Molten Core. Swing will go out next.
Okay, actually doesn't hit anything good disengaged there from L5 to avoid it. Modern Life actually losing a lot of health here on that Molten Core very quickly. And they're actually going to commit here. Jungha gets Holy Grounded, but he dodges it. Beautiful dodge there, and they will get the escape. Already Duck Duck is dead, and Jungha is playing so well this game. This series entirely locked down here, trying to escape. Hyde gets the heal, but Jungha does vorpal in. And this is likely to be game, Gillyweed. 2 dead. The Arcane Punisher still alive, gonna knock out this keep, and they can just go into the core, no problem. Void Prison is available as well to help make sure they get this no matter what.
4-level lead, L5, 22 kills to 4. Moving on to the core of Tempest in game number 2. 1 game away from being able to move on. This is, every match today, by the way, determines the top 4 teams. And L5 definitely look like they are going to be one of those.
Absolutely. You can see this attempt to feebly defend. The Void Prison goes down, isolates 2, and L5 will take a second dominant game. The Molten Core usage was oftentimes desperate. I think there's 2 real issues with what happened for Tempest here. One is the Molten Core usage was oftentimes desperate, and the second one is what you just mentioned right there at the end is Jungha basically made it so Duck had to heal himself, or rather protect himself, which meant that he wasn't protecting his teammates, and Jungha was just really aggressive no matter what. He's either harassing, lockdown, putting him out of range to do damage, or then stopping Duck from doing that extra support.
Yeah, there was no escape from Jungha. Even lockdown at the end, he was on fire, never missed those singularity spikes, always had the ability, the mobility to go in and get whatever kills he wanted and saw fit to take. That was a terrifying version of L5 we just saw.
Yeah. When you upgrade the spike, it stays on longer, then you just have such a longer window to make aggressive plays like that. You've got the Vorpal as well, so you just have this insane mobility. And it's hard to know exactly when he's going to come back in. And he's so patient, too. You'll see him sometimes standing there, and he's just literally standing there, and he's waiting. He's like, wait for the shield to go off, and now. And he gets the kill and then blinks away. And you're like, well, I don't even know if there's a counterplay to that, actually, if you're that mechanically good. As you already called, Gillyweed, 54.3k damage to heroes with Zeratul. And I know Zeratul is a strong assassin, but this is pretty unheard of damage. He's probably disappointed he got the 1 death there, but...
That was amazing play, and we're seeing now why when they are running a triple melee comp that SCSC is making the change and playing things like Ragnaros, Dahaka. Ragnaros yesterday, arguably not one of the strongest things we've seen from SCSC, but it is understandable when Jungha is playing Zeratul this strongly.
You know, the thing about SC is he was one of the best Zeratuls for a long time. Him, Rich, Reset, I think are the top 3 everyone always thinks about from Korea in terms of Zeratul. And you would think somebody who's so known worldwide for their Zeratul for such a long time would have trouble just letting that go, even in terms of just personally, right? But when you have a team that's worked together this long, you can actually put your ego aside, and you can actually say, like, all right, the longer we've been together, the more I realize, even though I'm famous for Zeratul and you're not even necessarily, you're actually a better Zeratul than me. And I'm just going to let that go, and I'll just play Dahaka here. And once you realize that, it's super powerful when you move into this double melee composition where you're having the Dahaka and the Zeratul, you're having the Zeratul and the Ragnaros. It's super important to have that flexibility in your roster, which is one of the reasons why L5 is just so strong. They're now the longest standing Here's the Storm roster, passing MVP Black, and it just really shows in their synergy and their flexibility of picks as well.
That absolutely does. They've adapted somewhat. They've shown some adaptations. They've also, like MVP Black, kind of played both adaptations and things that are more closer to their favorites that they were playing throughout HGC Korea. But everything working out very well for L5 so far. They are 1 game away from claiming a spot in the winners bracket finals. We'll see if Tempest can bring it back, though, in the series right after this.
Heroes of the Storm. Prepare for Heroes Brawl, the new game mode that breaks all the rules. Rated T for teen. Another round?
It's not easy being queen. So many subjects to keep in line. So many scores to set.